Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Red Letter, Yellow Letter podcast, a weekly anarchist, voluntarist, agorist variety podcast where we talk about and philosophize the morals and ethics of everything going on in the world today, tomorrow, and the future. I'm your host, Nev, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host and fellow anarchist, Harley. Harley, how are you? You look tired, sweetheart. Are you feeling? You've had like a really long shift yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah. Wasn't a very fruitful one either. So, 9 hours off the bar and a whopping $18 in tips.
Yeah.
$2 an hour in tips. Yeah. Half of them wouldn't even freaking tip. They can afford to come to a freaking movie theater and buy overpriced popcorn. That's what I love, actually. They'll come to me and they'll complain about the movie theater prices of the liquor and go, oh my gosh, it's so expensive here. You're charging this much for beer, you're charging this much for that. And then they'll turn right around and spend $15 on popcorn for three people. And it's like, how about you just stay consistent? I'm not the one charging this much for the liquor. And I've actually had some go, oh, and you expect me to tip you after this much? I'm still providing your freaking jackass self-service. I'm not the one profiting off these drinks. So yeah, a tip would be fucking nice, wouldn't it? God.
Tipping is there is a big cultural difference between tipping in the US.
I had on my ass about that yesterday too.
And tipping in the UK. And the cultural difference comes from the difference in drinking culture. That's the easiest way to boil it down. See, in a pub, a bar over here is nothing like a bar over in the UK. See, a pub in the US is one person serves. Several minutes later, you might serve someone else. Several minutes later, you might serve someone else. In the UK, it's you serve someone, and the instant that you stop the bar person stopped serving one, they're instantly down the other, and it's backwards, and it is frantic. They're not thinking, where's my tip? They're thinking, I need to get this person served as soon as possible so that I can move on to the next one.
Oh no, that's too, definitely.
Yeah, and that doesn't detract from. There are aspects of the service sector in the UK where people do tip. Restaurants, people will, if people can afford to leave a tip in a restaurant, they will. Right. I know that there are people that, for example, will tip and won't tip, depending on the cultural situation that they find themselves in. So if they're in a bar, it's Friday night and they're out with friends, people aren't. It's just not a cultural thing to tip, because what tends to happen is people drink in rounds. So you'll go out, if you go out with 20 quid and you're out with 7 mates, that 20 quid is gone straight away as soon as you get one round. But you know that you're going to get a round from everybody else. However, if a group of people go out to a restaurant, then everybody will kind of go a little bit over. Everyone will go a little. So if I bought a meal and it cost, I don't know, 18, and someone's was 17 and someone's was 15, or everybody would just divvy up everybody would round it up. So everybody would, with whatever note it was. If it was 9, they'd do 10. They'd put 10 in. If it was just under 20, they'd pony up a 20, and then it would all just go in. And it's not so much the way it's referred to isn't here's a tip. It's keep the change. So a tip is referred to, so because people don't want to be, a lot of the time people don't want to be rattling around with a boatload of shrapnel in their pocket. They just want notes because it's nice and it's flat and it doesn't, bust your balls if you're a dude. But yeah, no, there are areas where you get tipped here in the US that is completely and utterly alien to the UK. Cafes would be a perfect example. Cafe would be a perfect example of that.
We get international people fairly often. I've had people from, not just like the obvious ones around here, like Mexico or Canada on occasion. I've had people who live in Hong Kong. I've had people who live in like Sweden and Australia. I've had in Ireland. I've had like everywhere. Mm-hmm. And usually the international ones are actually some of the best tippers. One of the better ones is actually believe he was from Korea here just kind of temporarily, and he'd usually come back repeatedly and tip every single time he was here. And I understand there's cultural differences, but like, here in the US, it's like, you know what? I understand that you're here, you're paying for the drink, okay? But the thing is, and this goes, it's the same thing like when you go to a salon, when you're getting a tattoo from somebody, when you're at a restaurant, whatever, all these different services, art pieces, etc. There's lots of different other services where you tip somebody, and you're tipping them not just because they provided you a service, but because you have particular wants and needs. And we are catering to those particular wants and needs. When you're not just somebody saying, hey, I just want a pint, and it's just an easy, quick done pint. Most people only tip like $1 on that usually. It's like, what, because all I'm doing is pouring you a pint. When you're most of the time, you're already probably kind of tipsy, after a little bit, or you just have I had this one person, she always tipped well, but she always wanted as keto friendly of a Long Island iced tea as she could get. So she had like a bunch of different changes that she would make to your standard Long Island iced tea every single time. And there are lots of people that do that. Everyone wants their martinis completely different. It's rare I ever get somebody just make me a dirty martini, however you make it. They know what they want, and I have to be flexible to make it the way they want. And then they're trusting me to be able to handle those particular needs, and they'll usually take longer for me to do. And again, a lot of times these people are just freaking rude. They're demanding, they have attitude, they're getting a drink because they're feeling pretty cranky or something, or they're stressed, they're worn out. Some of the better tippers actually are the moms that come in and they've got like 5 kids with them, and they just want like a double shot of vodka just to get through the movies. Like, they tip like $5-10. They're just like, like they get how it is. And that's kind of what it is. Handling drunk people, it's like watching a bunch of freaking children around. Yeah. So I'm not just providing you a service, I'm catering to your needs. I'm standing here getting harassed verbally, sexually, all kinds of crap. I've even had, like they talk about the men who like, oh, men go so creepy. I've had women do it too. I have had flat out lesbians going like, oh God, I'm so glad you're legal and shit like that. And like, so tell me, you are single. Woman, you're like 55 years old. Like, hell, if I'm going to do anything with you, I'm not even freaking gay. Leave me the fuck alone. But she just kept going. And her friends are there and they're just laughing at her. And it's like, you don't think maybe this is a little inappropriate? Just because we're women doesn't make it okay. Like, God. So I got to deal with that kind of shit on a daily basis. That is something most people don't have to deal with in their industry. They just don't. So on top of the particular needs, I'm dealing with weird, creepy men. I'm dealing with weird, creepy women. I'm dealing with already emotional people who are looking for a drink to wind themselves down and get through the day. So any little thing can just piss them off. I have been freaking like full on attacked before over the sound of my voice. Literally just over this sound of my voice. This woman just blew a fucking fuse. Like, you probably think you sound cute. Well, guess what? You don't. And just shit like that. And she went on for like 5 minutes about how she couldn't handle my voice. Like, that's the kind of shit I deal with on a daily basis. When you're going to treat me like that and you're going to act like it's perfectly okay and normal and I should just deal with it, you can give me a fucking tip. Okay? It's like, I'm sorry. You can give me a fucking tip. So yeah, it makes me cranky when they don't. And unfortunately, yeah, a lot of people didn't. I always provide top-notch service. Like, there's a reason why I excelled pretty quickly in this career, because I'm good at my job. I've got a shining ass personality. I can, no matter how shitty I'm feeling, I can put on a damn smile, pretend everything's all fine and dandy, and make everyone else smile. I'm witty, I'm friendly, and I will do anything to cater to their needs. And funny enough, it's usually the people with really, really, really particular needs that tip the worst.
Yeah, there's one word that encompasses, called being professional.
And I'm damn professional. Yeah. I am damn professional. So when I get like 0 tip, it's like, what? Like, what is your fucking problem? Obviously, you can afford to be here. It's a fucking movie theater. We're one of the more high-end ones here too. If you can afford $50 on fucking popcorn and hot dogs, you can afford to give me $2 tip. Are you fucking kidding me right now? And especially right now, where most of us bartenders have been out of work for so long. Yesterday was the first day since the very first weekend of March that I have been able to work. It's been months because guess what? You people in general, I know not so much the anarchists or libertarians listening to this, but everyone else, the general population, are the ones who have been supporting the politicians that have put these freaking regulations to shut down on my life. So if you're going to do that shit, maybe help make up the cost a little bit and give me a fucking tip for providing you a service that you just have to have in order to enjoy your movie experience. God.
Yeah, no, no. I've been, coming across of, I'm in lots of different networks, and I kind of observe and see various different things going on in various different bubbles, and it does seem to be. I'm not talking about. Extreme left and extreme right. I'm talking about normies that think, normies that are left leaning and normies that are right leaning, not hardcore politically minded people, just normies that think they lean in a certain direction. What's that thing there?
That's my mic.
Oh, that's your mic. Okay. I wondered what it was. And a lot of them are, they're whinging and they're moaning and they're complaining about various different things, specifically, lockdowns and stuff like that. And a lot of the time, I'm just sitting back quietly doing my observing thing because, I know that if I were to interject on certain aspects, it would be like kindle to a fire. It would just flash. But every now and then, I can just drop a one-line perler, like I will, I'll just drop one line, just drop one-line perlers, or I'll be over the top, sarcastic because I have to, because I'm one of these. Sometimes I just don't get sarcasm when people are being ironic with their sarcasm. I'll listen to that, or I'll read it and I'll take it literally, but not in a bad way. I'll say, "Oh, right, okay." So I'll go back with a legitimate, calm rebuttal. People will be like, "I was being sorry." Oh, sorry, sorry, I didn't realize.
It happens.
So I'm that's one of the things that I'm like you. I'm seeing a lot of normies getting angry and frustrated, but at the same time doing exactly what you just said, which is they're the ones that seem to be following the crowd and doing what necessary, because what you see getting highlighted isn't the way that normies, whether they lean left or right, normally behave. You'll see them say a few words, or they'll express their feelings or their thoughts or their opinions in a conversation, but only when they believe that they're in a bubble.
Yeah.
Only when they think that they're in their echo chamber. So like there was there's a few people who are in one of the echo chambers that I regularly observe, and one of the things that they like to talk about and go on about is the perfect example, the Electoral College. And they keep going on about, we need to get rid of this. We need, and at one point, I just interjected in and went, you know what? I'm absolutely down with you on that. I absolutely think that minority rights should be crushed under the thumb of 50% plus one. And they're like, what? I'm like, I absolutely agree with you. We should 100% abolish the Electoral College so that minority rights can be crushed by the majority. And they're like, what are you talking about? Well, that if you want to get rid of the Electoral College, you need to replace it, and the instant automatic replacement is mob rule, the majority rule, 50% plus one, the majority crushing what the minority wants. And like, oh, no, it wouldn't be like that. It's like, well, of course it would be like that. The Electoral College is there as a legal means, and I'm not talking about a lawful or a moral or an ethical. I'm arguing, this is the argument for effect, not a moral or an ethical argument, because there's no point having a moral or an ethical argument with people in echo chambers. And so it's a legal argument. It's like, well, you legally want the ability for 50% plus one person to be able to tell the minority what they want. So you don't care about minority rights. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Of course it is. It's like, well, no, legally, you want the ability to tell the minority what they want to do. And it's like, oh, so how does that, and how does the electoral college? It's like, well, of course, there are a minority, of people in that state. That state is a tiny little minority. So minorities' rights and minorities' abilities to conduct themselves, don't get me wrong, obviously in a voluntarist way, in a non-harmful to other people way, should never be, crushed under the thumb of a majority. And I like I said, with in certain normie circles, I'll kind of, there's an air to sarcasm. There's an air of sarcasm to what I'm saying, but I'm kind of saying it as if you don't know that I'm being sarcastic, in order to get them to question, and have the self-realization that, well, okay, maybe getting rid of the electoral college,
they
without
don't know
an
what
alternative.
you kind of have to just be like, oh yeah, totally, I agree with you, and kind of be a little bit of a dick about it, because then it's like, this is how you sound.
Yeah.
You don't realize you're being a dick, but you're being a dick.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes they're not going to get it unless you kind of shove it in their face and you're the dick, and like, well, this is what you're saying, this is what you're doing. They're like, oh shit, yeah.
I'm don't get me wrong, I'm not like you. I mean, I'm not adverse to the suggestion of rolling back government control, or rolling back authoritative, involuntary authoritative control on something, providing that you're not replacing it with more authoritative control. Because it's like, so what you're saying is that type of government management is better than that type of government management. You're complaining about that one, but you're saying that this one's going to work. And there are examples of the replacement you're suggesting not working. So unless you're actually going to come up with a solution, or an alternative that is not authoritative in, involuntarily authoritative in nature, I'm going to, act like you, only I'm going to kind of mirror what you're saying, but in a much more dickish way, because what you're suggesting with X is, being replaced with Y is actually doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
No, I do that too. I do that as well, because again, sometimes that's the only way you can get it through their heads. Well, I mean, in regards to tipping, I had somebody do that to me yesterday. They said, well, I'm not obligated to tip though. So if I don't, then what's going to happen? What are you going to do? Go home and complain on Twitter? What else can you do? And I'm just like, there's no repercussion to me being an asshole, so I'm just going to do it anyway. Like, that's what you're fucking saying, dude. You think that's a good look? And they stop and they go, well, that's not what I said. Okay, but it is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. You're saying, well, there's no, what's going to happen if I do this? There's no, like, it's like people as a whole kind of lost, like, the whole ability to think cause and effect. They think this is what's going to work in the moment, and they don't stop and go, but how is this going to affect other people, including other people that I may not be considering? What are the actual consequences that could result into doing what I support, or what I do, or what I want to do? So they just think, well, here's what I don't like. So if we change this, then this will change and it'll be better. Okay, no, you're not taking into consideration this side may change and be better according to this group of people, but not to this group of people. You're actually damaging them. And they just don't think of that. They just think because it helps this group, it's going to be good, without any sort of, well, what about the rest of the people who that's actually going to bite in the butt? It just does not come to their mind at all whatsoever. And you have to break it down, because it's like, if you just say, well, what about these people? Well, what about them? Dude, like, stop and think for a second. And they're not going to want to stop and think unless you calm out and go, this is who you're being. This is how you are acting. This is how you're sounding. And then when the tables are turned and going, see, no, you're actually being a jackass in this situation, then they're not going to like it. They're probably going to react harshly, but it's going to stick a little better.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I like to kind of put it under um, one that the easiest umbrella to put it under is people that don't care about minority rights. People that say they care about the rights of the minority, but what they're saying and what they're suggesting would actually remove minority rights. It's like, so you can bring it back to one argument with people that make those suggestions. Do you care about the rights of the minority? And if you can get them to say yes, which nearly 99 times out of 100 people will say, well, yeah, I do. It's like, well, then what you're suggesting goes counter to what you believe. And then you get to explain, it's like, well, if you believe in minority rights, then you wouldn't want to impose your will on a minority. And they're like, yeah, but that group is a minority. And I'm like, yeah, but what about the minority group smaller than the group that you want to help? There is always a group, there was always a minority that is smaller than the one that you're trying to, impose your will on the majority for the benefit of the minority. And we all know that the smallest minority is one. The smallest minority is an individual. It's as simple as that. That's why, people profess, that's why you get the people that want to help groups but not help individuals. They won't follow through with their argument. It's like, oh, I care about minority rights. No, you don't. You don't care about minority. You care about group rights. There's a difference between caring about group rights and minority rights. It's just a lot of the time people don't see it. I mean, and we get into, and like you said, we end up getting into either those discussions or those debates or those arguments with people that try to conceal, or they're simply ignorant of the end, end argument. It's almost like a form of cognitive dissonance. I mean, and don't get me and don't get me wrong, that there are people that will do that, but I guess one of the weird things I'm seeing is a lot less cognitive dissonance in the extremes, in that they will openly state, now they'll literally take their argument to the end. I mean, I was in the car, I was out thrifting yesterday, and I was in the car coming back listening to BBC Radio 4, and there's an old newsreader, and he's got a program on. It's called Richard Burke. I do believe it's called Richard Burke. I used to read the news for ITV, and he's doing this show on and they're talking about vaccinations vis-a-vis the coronavirus, and they had this medical professional on that was talking about forced vaccinations, and came up with the most horrendous analogy. It's like, well, we have seatbelt laws that force people to wear seatbelts, and if they don't, they have an accident and they suffer horrendous injuries. And I'm thinking to myself, that's a terrible analogy.
It's a very terrible
to use
analogy.
That analogy makes no sense. If you were to say, the only way to make that analogy even close to a forced vaccination would be somebody is in the car physically holding the seatbelt on you so that you can't take it off. Right. Not, okay, go ahead, jump in your car and put your seatbelt on, and if you don't put it on and we catch you with it not on, we're going to fine you and we're going to put points on your license. Whereas, and that's not an analogy for somebody there and holding you down and saying you will be, we are sticking this needle in you because it's for the greater good. The greater good. The greater good.
Fuck the greater good.
So it's
there is no such thing as the greater good.
Yeah, and people, it's like you can't do. I mean, you cannot do that compulsory thing. I mean, in Australia, they do have forced, sorry, not forced. It's called compulsory vaccinations, and the punishment for not having children vaccinated is your child cannot go to public school. Which is fine for people that want to homeschool. It's like, well, I want to homeschool my children anyway.
Right.
And you're giving me, without having to fill out any paperwork, without having to do anything, you're making it easy for me because all I have to do is say, yeah, my kid's not getting vaccinated. Well, they're not going to public school then. I wasn't going to send them to
That's
public
fine.
school.
Yeah, no, we have a similar thing here too, actually. Yeah, it's it was only placed about a year and a half ago, something like that. They tried to make it mandatory for everyone mandatory vaccinations. Now, I don't have my kids vaccinated. I do have medical just anomaly. I am just this genetic hot mess of anomalies. Like, it's a little absurd. And I've learned the hard way that I am actually very allergic to vaccinations. I have had to go on like hardcore antibiotics and everything multiple times because the allergic reactions I get from them are very severe. Okay. So when my kids were born, I didn't really feel comfortable, especially with my daughter. My daughter's birth was actually very, very difficult. She was an emergency cesarean. We almost lost her. She was under watch for a long time, getting blood drawn every couple of hours. Like, it was pretty rough. So knowing my own issues, I really did not feel comfortable putting, vaccinations on her. I'm like, what if she has the same allergies? Like, that's just not a risk I'm willing to take right now. With my son, keep in mind, they're born in two completely different states. So we had different doctors and everything for them. And as soon as I said, I'm allergic to vaccinations, my doctor just stopped me right there and said, we're not even going to try them. Mm-hmm. Like, there was no conversation. She's like, nope, I'm not pushing that on you then. So, yeah, for me, I homeschool my kids anyway. So for me, that's really not a big issue, but I mean, that's just it. I've had people say the most horrific stuff in response to that, even knowing that I am flat out allergic. I am partially vaccinated. Some still didn't make me feel so good. Others were just really, really bad. Mm-hmm. So once they just kept getting really, really bad, that's when my doctor was like, okay, no more. We're just not going to try it anymore. So by age 10, anything after age 10, I didn't get. And I've said that. I'm like, look, I can't. I'm allergic to them. And I'm not going to risk putting that on my small kids. I've been told everything from, then I hope CPS takes them away and forces them. And if they die, then they die. Oh, well, we don't need that in the world anyway. Like, I mean, everything from like, I hope you and your kids just drop dead then because you're going to ruin herd immunity. Like, people say some pretty ballsy shit when they think they're in a majority with other people. And then they find out the hard way they're not. They're actually fucking monsters.
Yeah, no, I've come across, that myself. I came across that with my eldest. But I'm not for all vaccines should be administered, and I'm not on the extreme opposite of that, which is anti. I'm straight down the middle. I'm all about informed choice.
Right.
Perfect example of that would be in the UK what's referred to as the MMR jab, which is the measles, mumps, and rubella jab. Now, there was a lot of bad data coming out about the combined vaccination, and I'm like, I'm not doing that for my kids. I'm going to give them the separate ones, and I'm going to spread them out because they are, they've been, they're known to be effective. Mm-hmm. They're known to be. The data's back that there's a lot less harm than having them all administered in one go in the MMR jab. Why would I have the and I'm in there, making the arrangements for the doctor. It's like, yeah, but it's like, I don't care about I'll bring them back one at a time.
Over and that's health risks.
Yeah, exactly. So that is what I did with my girls. I did the research and I looked at the data, and it's like, I'm not taking the risk with the MMR. I would rather them have the individual jabs because that, those are the ones that have been out the longest. The research has been done longer, and the research on the MMR was very new. It was very recent and like that. But obviously you talk about monsters. Then when my eldest hit 11, the school that she was in was talking about doing the HPV vaccine. And I was like,
I think that was one of the ones I was really allergic to, actually. Yeah. And I think that was one of the ones that gave me the worst reactions.
And the HPV vaccine is a good, solid idea in principle because it's there to mitigate the risk of cervical cancer in women, it's a good idea. The idea is excellent in principle. My issue was it's the whole the whole cervical cancer thing, and the HPV vaccine is based on the individual receiving the vaccination being sexually active. And at the time, I was like, well, she's 11, she doesn't need it now. And they're like, oh, what? So you don't want her to have? It's like, no. I'm fine for her to have it when she gets to the age where she's about to become sexually active. That would make sense. But she's 11, so there's no risk right now or over the next 3, 4 years, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. There's zero risk of her contracting HPV, and there is zero risk of her developing as a result of getting HPV. There's a zero risk of her contracting cervical cancer. And they're like, yeah, but it's like, and I'm literally, so we're talking about someone within the Child Protective Services, and it's like, so you don't want it to happen. It's like, no, stop. Right.
Just
I
not
am
yet.
not saying I do not want her to have it. I am saying I do not want her to have it now. She does not need it now as an
Well, not to
11-year-old
mention, don't they
child.
tend to wear off after several years on average?
Well, some vaccines, some vaccines do, and some vaccines require, some vaccines do require boosters. But that,
Yeah.
I'm literally, I'm arguing with someone that's saying that she should have it at 11 because of a zero risk of something harm happening to her, while simultaneously arguing that cigarette smoke does not cause cancer. I actually have an audio. I mean, it's still in my possession. It's something that, I have a lot of audio recordings from meetings with various different members of bureaucracies within Child Protective Services from the UK. I have an audio recording of a woman saying that that smoking does not cause cancer. And I'm like, are you joking? It's written on the pack. Smoking can cause cancer. It's actually on the, and she was trying, I'm there, so the argument and the discussion was about the HPV vaccine, and me arguing that my daughter not having it was at zero risk because she wasn't sexually active at 11, but them arguing that, well, yeah, but it's like, and that's fine. And I said, and Megan was, I spoke to her about it. I said, oh, going for having the having the injection later on, that's fine. But what they were trying to do was do mass vaccinations in school all in one go. So it wasn't about the safety or the risk factor. It was about, well, we've got a bunch of vaccines and we want to administer them all in one go, whether it's necessary or not. And I was arguing that it, as an informed parent, I understand the benefit of that vaccine, but I also understood the benefit of administering that vaccine through informed choice at the right time. And the right time would have been around that 15, 16, 17, as far as I think she told me that she had it when she was 15. I'm pretty sure it was, and I'm like, that's fine. She's developed more, she's grown more. There's less risk of any adverse effect. So to me, the whole vaccine thing should be done on informed choice, and simply having one for the sake of it because they're bringing medical professionals to a school just so that they can do an entire swathe of students. It's like, you're not doing it because of trying to mitigate the risk of any illness within that group. You're doing it for the sake of doing it, and you're doing it at an unnecessarily early age.
Yeah, I think I was 10 when they gave me that one because my vaccine stopped like age 10 because that's when I just kept getting. One of them was so bad, like my entire thigh, literally like my entire leg, because that's where they administered it, was completely green and blue. I'm not even kidding. It was hard as a rock to the touch. It was that infected. And I had to go on major antibiotics. I remember like when we got to the pharmacy and my mom asked them, when should she start taking this? And they're like, well, can we see the infection? I pulled up my shorts a bit to show. And the pharmacist just dropped her face and went, right now. Like it was that bad, So then that particular vaccine was a 2-part one. And I don't know, there were others that they were giving at the same time too. And they would always like clean the area first with like a pre-antibiotic before administering the vaccinations. And that still didn't help. I just kept getting the allergic reaction. So after a while, they're like, okay, just no more, this is absurd. So, and the only reason why we were getting them is because at that point I was starting public school. Before that, I was homeschooled. So, we were told in order for me to go to public school, I would have to get these vaccines. So, I mean, I had some before that too, but like not all of them. It was like the more the more alarming ones that I had got, and not so much the ones that were less important, So I had to get all caught up so I could go to public school, and it just completely like screwed me over. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh my gosh, vaccines are going to cause autism and all kinds of crap. Like, I just, if that's the case, that's the case. I'm not going to say they definitely don't. I'm not going to say they definitely do either. It's just not something I really looked into very much. And I'm not going to, I'm just kind of like,
I looked into it a little bit, and there there did appear to be a slight correlation, but we all know that correlation does not equal causation.
Exactly. That's kind of how I am. It's like, you know what, maybe like, I don't know, like, maybe it's kind of like the whole active inactive gene thing or something. And then, I don't know, like there could be different. I'm not going to say it's definitely not. I'm not going to say it definitely is either. I'm not, so, so I'm kind of whatever on it. But well, as far as I'm concerned, I understand people's concern about getting them in the sense that they are so government regulated, pushed by the government. A lot of the vaccines have ingredients that they don't want us knowing about, and they're really weird and secretive about it, and all kinds of just weird, suspicious stuff, So it's like, okay, this isn't like standard questionable medical advice, like the food pyramid, where it's like, you need like 12 servings of grains a day. No, I don't think you really do, that kind of stuff. It's not like that. It is, you're literally injecting mysterious crap that they're not really fully disclosing on what's in it right into your freaking veins, like that's supposed to last forever. Like, I get that concern. It's a little bit creepy. Don't get me wrong. So, like with that said, I'm kind of like, look, if you want to get them done because you're going to feel safer, then that is your choice.
Exactly. That's your
the whole like my
choice.
body, my choice thing. You know what? It's my choice to not continue because I am very allergic to them. And on top of being allergic to them, most medications don't work on me. So what am I going to do? I make myself really sick with a massive infection that I may or may not be able to cure easily. Like that's just, that's not worth it. I mean, I actually, I know some of the things too. Actually, I did have whooping cough as a baby. I actually did have to be hospitalized as a baby for whooping cough, and my mom had it too, but we're here. But, then with my kids, there's just such a good chance that they have it. And since my daughter had health problems early on, she's healthy now, but like it's just not something I feel comfortable risking. To my kids, they hardly ever get sick. I haven't really had to use medications, painkillers on them, etc. So I just don't know how they're going to react to medication. I don't know if they're going to have the same resistances or immunities or allergies like I do. So it's like, I don't know what's going to happen, and and when they're more than likely allergic like I am, it's just not something I feel comfortable pushing on them.
Yeah.
I
what I tend to do is I try to find something else similar that's the opposite in order to argue for what they're arguing against. So, for perfect example would be, I think you terms pro-choice. Mm-hmm. So, if someone is arguing that vaccinations should be mandatory and they should be compulsory, and you shouldn't have a choice, and you can, so are you pro-choice regarding abortion and terminating babies? And they'd be like, yes, I'm for that. It's like, so if you're pro-choice why wouldn't you be pro-choice for vaccinations? And they're like, yeah, but if you catch something, you might give it to somebody else, and by giving it to somebody else, you might kill that person. And I'm like, yeah, but if you're for terminating potential human life, that potential human life might grow up and cure cancer. So your choice to terminate that life could be the result of hundreds of thousands of people dying because that person never existed, they never went to school, they never got educated, and they never came up with a cure for cancer. It's like, yeah, but that's a what if. And it's like, well, you just gave me a what if. What if I don't get vaccinated? What if I get ill? And then what if I give that illness or that virus or that disease to another person and kill them?
Well, that's what I tell people about government in general. I go, okay, you say my body, my choice. Okay, fair. Now let's extend that. And let's keep extending that. Extend that a little further now, It doesn't just stop there. My body, my choice continues to everything. And, as far as like illnesses go, there's a lot of irony with a lot of this because, I know a lot of pro-vaccination and caps libertarians, et cetera. And they go, well, the science backs it up. But then they're also against the lockdowns or wearing masks and everything. And it's like, you're talking about, we all need to have these vaccinations to keep everyone alive, according to you. But then you're against, because the science backs it up, but then you're against the lockdowns and everything. No, don't get me wrong. I'm against the lockdowns too, but it's not very consistent to say, well, it's because you could make other people sick in regards to vaccines, but then not willing to do those same measures in regards to the COVID regulations. That doesn't really add up, Yeah. Now, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the vaccines, I've done a lot of research on this stuff. Okay. And one of the more popular things that people like to talk about is polio vaccine. Okay. When you look up how many people actually got polio, it's a lot lower than what was originally announced. And the reason for that is because back then polio was fairly new. It's kind of like what we're dealing with now. It was a widespread, epidemic, but it wasn't really well understood. And a lot of cases were misdiagnosed. And so people say, well, even Teddy Roosevelt had polio. He actually didn't. He had some signs that resembled polio, and so therefore they diagnosed him with polio, but later they found out he didn't actually have polio. Tons of people who were diagnosed with polio didn't actually have it, just like how now currently we're getting all these cases of COVID deaths that aren't actually COVID deaths. They're already dying of cancer or whatever else.
Yeah, they have comorbidities.
COVID, and so it accelerates it, but they didn't actually die of COVID. They were dying of something else, but because they were carrying COVID, let's write it as a COVID death.
Yeah, it's like HIV people.
Polio. Yeah, it was essentially the same thing. So looking at the numbers, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, it was something like 0.04% of the population in the US actually got polio. 0.04% actually had, or was it, and then actually less than that, and then so even less of that actually died from it.
Yeah.
Now I could be a little off there, but the point is, either way, less than 1% of the population actually died of polio because so many cases were misdiagnosed. Now, here's the thing. Now people say, but it started dropping. Okay. It started dropping before the polio vaccine was actually okayed and administered. During the pandemic is when all those scientists were working on creating the vaccine. The numbers already started dropping before it was tested and given the okay to start dishing it out. So it was already on the decline. The vaccine isn't curing people of polio. It's just theoretically preventing people from getting it. Yeah. Okay. In that same time, that's when personal hygiene awareness and new measures to stay clean and everything were on the rise.
On the rise, yeah.
So people started actually taking care of themselves and cleaning themselves up. Sicknesses started going down. It had nothing to do with the vaccine. Yeah, it had absolutely nothing to do with it. Yeah.
But they were claiming credit for it.
Yeah, they were claiming
we've
credit
done this
for it.
wonderful
there were all
thing.
these
Look at the numbers
misdiagnoses. Yeah, there were all these misdiagnoses. Far fewer people actually caught it or even died from it than what was originally stated, because we later discovered those were not actually polio cases. They were just things that resembled it, but was not actually polio. And then the vaccine was not even administered until polio was already almost gone. We fought it without the vaccine. But people go, oh, polio cured us. No, we started cleaning ourselves up and then it went away. That's what actually cured it. Yeah. And all of that is out there. All of that is, I mean, I just found that with basic Google searches. I found information from like Time Magazine and shit all about this. It's not like this is from, fake news sources. This is from mainstream news sources. It's all out there, but that's not what's getting pushed. That's not the narrative that people want pushed. So yeah, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, vaccine is going to cause autism and it's going to kill us all and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it could kill me, but that's because I'm a genetic anomaly. That's a specialty case. It could kill me and my children. I'm not going to take that risk. That's, but that's not the norm. If you want to vaccinate your kids, that's your choice. Do it. But don't give me dirty looks and don't tell me you wish my kids would get taken away by CPS and crap. And go, oh my God, don't touch their unvaccinated children. Like, you know what? Maybe I don't want you to touch me anyway, you freaking jackass. Like, all because I can't vaccinate my kids. I mean, for me, it is a health choice. I have a much better chance of getting deathly sick from these vaccinations, as do my kids. And that's multiple doctors saying, don't put that risk on them. There's a much better chance of us having that issue than us catching polio.
Yeah. And I think when the vaccination for COVID does start getting mass produced and mass administered, like literally tens, hundreds of millions, probably billions of people getting it, the argument's going to be, oh, you should have it. And it's like people will then ask the question, well, what are the chances of me suffering such an adverse effect from this vaccination that it could kill me? And someone will come out with, oh, it's tiny. It's like 99.5 or 99.6 or 99.7% chance that you won't die from it and that it'll vaccinate you from it. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. Locked everything down. You've put massive restrictions on us for something that, if 99.5% of the majority of the population won't kill us. Isn't that the same?
It's like that scene off of South Park that's been going around like crazy since this whole thing started, where it's got Stan Marsh and he's like laying on the ground. He's like, I've only got a 99.8% of chance of survival or something like that. And it's all dramatic. It's like, guys, this is literally how you sound. Like,
yeah. So you're pushing something that is gonna stop us from getting it. It has an infinitesimal chance of killing us, but you're saying that we have to have it. But the swing side is the actual disease that you want to vaccinate us against has the exact same survival rate if we get it. But in that case, we have to do what we're told, and
I know. Meanwhile,
the logic just doesn't. Yeah, the logic doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. Meanwhile, it's perfectly acceptable to absolutely financially destroy the nation, especially the struggling working class, which is painfully ironic from those who, the ones who tend to support the lockdowns are the ones who claim to be all about the struggling working class. And, I remember like in the first couple of months where the first month or so when all these lockdowns really started happening, California, for instance, witnessed within 4 weeks the amount of suicides they get in 1 year, all because of these lockdowns. But as long as it saves one life, right?
Well, the thing is, it's not even just that. I mean, I tried to, I made the point in a conversation with somebody either yesterday or the day before yesterday. Is we know that COVID, people with comorbidities that contract COVID are extremely high risk, because we know that over 90% of the people that have died as a result of contracting COVID weren't killed by the COVID, but the COVID exacerbated their, the comorbidities within them. As a result of the lockdowns and people staying at home, I mean, any given day, anywhere in most countries, you are going to get hundreds of people without the lockdowns, just normal life. Hundreds, if not thousands of people are going to be diagnosed with cancer. with diabetes, with liver disease, with all of the, literally thousands of people on a daily basis who are just going in for a regular checkup at their doctors or some regular tests at their hospital. Hey, good, we've caught it early. We're going to be able to get you on this regimen of medication or this method to to ease your problems. Oh my God, I've got type 2 diabetes. It's not a problem. It's not a death sentence. We're going to be able to.
Yeah, we caught it. We can get rid of
caught
it.
We can square you away. It's not a problem. All of those people aren't going for checkups. They aren't identifying their comorbidities, and then they get COVID, and people are like, "Oh my God, they died." It's like, well, if they weren't being locked down, and if they were just being asked to take flu-like precautions, if you're ill, stay at home. You don't go to work. You don't go out because you don't want to give
wash yourself good. Take some preventative care,
and,
whatever.
If you're out and about, keep your distance. If you're breathing, wear a mask if you think you've got the sniffles, if you're not sure, so that you're not sneezing or coughing on people. So there's nothing against, because I don't think anybody has anything against precautions or precautionary measures.
Right.
It's just,
and
that
especially if you're at higher
risk,
by all means.
It's just that we know now that locking things down doesn't work. The first lockdown did not work. The whole purpose of the first lockdown, which was only supposed to be 2-3 weeks long, was touted as, well, we need to flatten the curve so that all of the medical services can prepare for the waves of people that are going. And everybody was like, you know what, that actually makes a lot of sense. We don't have enough beds, we don't have enough hospitals, we don't have enough incubators, we don't have enough breathing equipment, so let's shut things down to flatten the curve so that all of the hospitals and all of the doctors and all of the nurses can receive the training, the briefings, the medical equipment, so that when we unlock down and more people start getting it, and more people start getting it in a severe manner, the infrastructure is in place to deal with it. And that's what everybody thought was, that's what was touted, globally, and it didn't work. I mean, even the World Health Organization are saying that, locking down does not work. We see that it doesn't work. But instead of thinking, right, okay, so we know it didn't work, we need to come up with alternative solutions to stopping people getting in mass without locking. And instead of, having brainstorming sessions, instead of saying, look, okay, you're telling us it doesn't work, give us alternative solutions. Come up, give us something right now that we can try as an alternative, and we'll try it. Instead, it's like, well, I'll just pass the buck. I can still get food. I still get money. I don't. My job's not at risk. My life's not at risk. But by imposing this on other people, even though it probably isn't going to be an effective measure to stop the spread, I'm still going to. It's like, no. That's not an intelligent way to formulate a solution to a problem or an issue that is, currently exacerbated. And the number of people that are getting it is going up. And like I said, because people aren't going for regular checkups, I mean, because you would with all of the palliative care and all of the things that are coming out at the moment, you would expect that mortality rate to extremely slightly start going down. But the problem is the mortality rate is just doing this at the moment. It's literally just even though the cases are going up, the mortality rate is still doing this.
I actually just saw an article yesterday saying that my city has at like a all new record high, and I'm like, great, here comes another freaking shutdown, I'm sure. And I'm sick of it. It's like, this has just been handled so freaking poorly. So many people's lives have been completely destroyed. And to be honest, I don't really trust the test results anyway. I mean, just in the news that I've seen Elon Musk took 4 tests, 2 came out negative, 2 came out positive. I've seen some other celebrity. I've never heard of her until
Erykah
Badu.
Erykah Badu. She had it in one nostril, but not the other.
Nostril. Right.
When I use that as a joke. It's like when someone says, "Oh, they had a test," and I went, "Did you have the left nostril test, or did you have the right nostril test?"
Well, then I have a friend who apparently her husband had it. He definitely for sure had it. Now they're saying he has it again without any symptoms.
Yeah, no,
And
you
like,
can't. There hasn't been that there are 11. I mean, right now in the United States, there are 11 million people that have had it, that have recovered, that are now immune.
right,
I
exactly. So
mean,
it's like that's exactly what she's saying. She's like, this is bullshit. She's like, there's no way. And I don't blame her for thinking that. Like, so I'm at the point where I'm like, you know what? I don't even trust the test results. I don't trust the test results. I don't trust the actual deaths that the doctors say. I don't trust any of this crap. I really don't. And they've been dicking around with us so freaking much, completely screwing our jobs, completely screwing our lifestyle. Like I'm just at my wit's end with it. And I am so sick of the irony from the people who support this going on. I mean, I know I constantly rant and piss and moan about the body positive movement, but I find it painfully ironic when these same people who are pro-mask, believing all the numbers that the government says, believing all the mandates and regulations, everything that the government says to do, are the same people who say, don't trust doctors because they're going to tell you to get a lifestyle change. And I don't trust the science when they say I'm probably going to get diabetes with my weight and everything. What the fuck?
mm.
Honestly, why are you picking and choosing like this? So I'm seeing this going on. I'm seeing these same people go on about how they can't trust doctors because, they don't actually take my concerns seriously. They just want me to, go through all these different tests because it gives them more money, and they're giving me all these medications because they get more money that way. So I can't trust doctors. And I know what I need for my body. I don't care if I'm overweight. I don't care, blah, 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 lifestyle changes. I don't want to do any of it. There's something diagnosed and they don't want to diagnose it because that's not going to give them money. Meanwhile, they're saying, trust the doctors, vote Biden because the doctors say so. And the doctors are heroes. They're here to help us. Which fucking is it? Medical malpractice is the third leading cause of death in the US. And it has been for years.
Mm-hmm.
So why should I trust fucking any of this?
Yeah.
Literally, why?
No,
why are
no.
you cherry picking what you're trusting from these doctors?
Yeah, well, and that goes back to the bubbles.
Lives and detrimental, like irreparable damage financially, emotionally. You claim to be on the side of domestic abusers, and you're locking women with their domestic abusers because the government says so. You go on about, we are here for the working class. We are here for the struggling low-income families, blah, blah, blah. No, you're fucking not. Because you're also sitting there saying, well, I was able to order my food to go delivered to my house, so why can't you? I'm working from home, so why can't you? You want to talk about privilege? I actually had somebody freaking bitch and moan to me. They said, you think I'm privileged? My income was cut by almost half. And I've had to work from home instead of out there and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, better than losing both fucking jobs at once like I did. Because guess what? I haven't been able, literally yesterday was the first time I've been able to work since the first weekend of March. I've been busting my ass trying to freaking start, this homemade shit from home, like all my Etsy work and everything, doing what I can from home.
Your merch stuff.
That's what I've been trying to do. And you're telling me I'm the selfish one because I want to get back to work and provide for my kids. Well, you can sit there on your ass with boo-hoo half my income and still manage. Are you kidding me? Like, it's at the point where it's like, I'm not a violent person. I wouldn't actually do this, but inside I would love to just freaking ram their head to the desk. It's like, tell me. Look at me in the eyes when I'm watching my friends and people close to my life attempt suicide over and over again because they cannot keep up with how they're not making money anymore. Their hours are cut. People aren't coming in and buying things. People are shutting everything down. Everyone's afraid to freaking look at each other because they might sneeze in the wrong direction and then we're all going to die.
Yeah. Yeah, no, small. I mean,
so everybody, they already were struggling. They already had mental health issues. They already had financial issues. And now it's 10 times worse because of this. And you want to tell me I'm privileged because I want that to stop and let those who are at risk manage themselves?
Yeah, no, I mean,
honestly,
small businesses are going to be absolutely destroyed by the, any new lockdowns before. That's it for you. Small business.
Can't do this again.
Going to die.
Normally, this is a really good time of year for me. Again, I work a movie theater bar. There's tons of family movies that come out this time. Thanksgiving is really close. There's usually a couple. Like last year, what did we have? We had that the Mr. Rogers movie come out. We had oh, what's that movie? Knives Out. We had Knives Out come on Thanksgiving, which is really popular. I mean, people love that movie. People were coming in. Gosh, I had customers coming in for a fifth time just to see that movie. I'm not kidding. They just that was a really big hit. And I mean, there was some other kids movie that came out, I think, on that day. And so, this is the time of year when all those really big movies are pushed because it's holidays. Everyone's spending time with their families. They're all getting gift cards. And so they're going out and then they're getting drinks and they're watching, with their family. That's come to a screeching halt. I was at work 9 hours and I had a whopping 10 customers the whole day. The whole day. And this, it's not just me and my business, it's people everywhere, especially the small little businesses, the little dives and the handmade workers and stuff. Normally, this is a great time of year for us because this is when people are going, okay, I've been getting my holiday bonuses, I've been working overtime, and I can afford to spend, buy things for my friends and support them. And I can use those things as holiday gifts, So normally right around this time of year is really good for me. Everyone's Christmas shopping. No, that's come to, I've had a few people support for sure, and I'm very thankful for that, but it's nowhere near as good as it used to be. I belong to a couple of Facebook groups online where I get to, there's 30 vendors and we all put up every couple of weeks new stuff we have to sell. And normally we would all get a few buyers every weekend. None of us have had it. I had one sale in the past 5 months since then. And it's not just me, it's everybody in those groups. It's all just stuff. We can't afford it. People can't afford our work. That's just, and so, yeah, those little small, so of course, what happens then? People can't afford the handmade stuff. People can't afford the little guys. So they go to the big corporations because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
And then evil capitalism, evil corporatism. Well, what are you supporting with these lockdowns? You're killing off the small businesses. 60% of businesses in the nation that were forced to lock down are not reopening. Over half cannot reopen because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
This is a legit issue. You can't scream that you don't trust scientists. Oh no, here. You can't scream that you trust doctors, trust the doctors, trust what they say about COVID, when you're also destroying your own health and saying, screw what doctors say, you know better, you know your body. And then saying, well, I support the struggling working class and the handmade people and those who avoid the greedy capitalism and corporatism, while you are forcing people like that to shut down their businesses for health purposes, therefore giving all the business to the big corporations. It doesn't add up. And I'm at the end of my rope with it. I really truly
nothing really adds up at the moment. There I made a joke the other day. I made a joke the other day about Detroit, and nobody quite understood why I said Detroit. And I'm like, because there are multiple different realities going on at the moment. Not in a literal sense, but in a metaphorical sense. So in a metaphorical sense, there are two Detroits. There's a bubble of people that the way people think things are going in Detroit, and there's another group of people that think there are different the way things are going in Detroit or another way, and that's happening all over. I mean, literally, that is literally happening all over the United States. So there are bubbles of people that think, yeah, shutting down, everything's going to be fine. And then there are other bubbles, metaphorical bubbles of reality, that it's like, if we shut down, this entire state is going to go to rat shit. And the reason why I kind of used Detroit as an example was because you go back X amount of years, it was a booming, thriving city because of one industry, the auto industry. And the auto industry fell in and collapsed in on itself, and Detroit became not a booming city. Now, take that and add it to every single state in the United States and remove every single small. So it's not the car industry or Detroit. In other cities, in other states in the United States, that one single entity is the small business. You take out, you stop the ability for the small business to be able to generate jobs, generate incomes for people, create commerce, and cities and states will eventually completely and utterly fall by the wayside. And what happened in Detroit with with its collapse because of one industry could potentially, if they just keep rolling, lockdown, that's what's going to happen with the one industry is necessary in order for a city or a state to function healthily, is the loss of the small business, because big business isn't going to be able to cater to all of those needs. The cafes, the takeaways, the boutiques, the hairdresser, all of those small things that people, I mean, I doubt very much whether Supercuts is going to still be around, but there's a small hairdressers. They're probably going to, Supercuts probably is, somewhere like that's probably going to go down as well. But a small convenience store is going to collapse. Walmart isn't. The small pizza shop is going to collapse. The small mom and pop's pizza shop is going to collapse. Pizza Hut isn't.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, it does also greatly depend on the industry too. I mean, like, for
yeah,
like,
it does depend on the
there
industry.
aren't a whole lot of private movie theaters, for instance. So, I work a movie theater bar. It's corporate. The vast majority of movie theaters are corporate, and mine is probably going downhill. Like, it's been for months now, it's been like, okay, it's pretty much any moment when we're just going to go bankrupt, like it's bad. But
I mean, the big thing that's the big tell that the industry that you're in, the cinema industry, is, I mean, the big news that was recent a few days ago was Wonder Woman 84. It's going straight to HBO Max. That is one of those $1 billion movies that makes $1 billion because it's in the cinemas. And people would go to the cinema to watch it. So all of the money that would have been made from beers, from Cokes, from popcorn, from hot dogs, from nachos, from, little bar food like fries and stuff like that, none of that is going to be made. None of it.
That's something a lot of people don't realize. They say, oh, the ticket prices are so expensive, here or there, depending where you go. Well, movie theaters don't actually make a whole lot of money from ticket sales. I mean, like, they make a little portion, but most of their sales are actually from the concessions. That's why they're so expensive, because that's actually, most of their income. So now, on top of the fact that, like you said, these movies are sending things straight to DVD, or, streaming, home streaming instead. That actually started with the Trolls movie, and that went horribly, because I guess what happened is, like, AMC actually, they cut a deal with Universal Studios where they would allow Trolls to go ahead and just be released straight to home. And the deal was, okay, this one movie, with Universal Studios, we'll do this one movie, sit there in the middle of a pandemic, let them have their movie and just be happy, right? Mm-hmm. Well, it went so well that Universal decided to break that deal and go, we're just going to do this with all of our movies from now on. So AMC went like, hell you are. We're just not going to show your movies anymore then.
Yeah, and there's a big fight.
It was that. So there was
big fight going on with that stuff, definitely.
Yeah, so there was that. I can tell you that our movie theater, what I work at, we greatly limited what kind of food and everything you can get. Like, it used to be a full-on menu with like tons of different options, like on multiple screens. Everything is condensed to one little screen out. It's just the bare basics. So there goes a lot of sales in that regard, because the options are so limited. They quit refill sales because of health risks. So you can't even get refills anymore. Most people are not going to buy a whole new popcorn. They're going to pay that extra $1 or whatever to just get it refilled. Now you got to buy a whole new one, and they're just not going to do that. So that's even less money now. And I mean, it's absolutely destroying the movie theater industry. It totally is. So I mean, and again, it's just things people don't realize. And all these lovely little socialists and whatnot that go on, tear down corporatism. And it's like, you know what? That corporate is giving me a damn job. That corporate, actually, the reason why we're so bankrupt is because all the higher ups, the CEO and all those up in that business, took drastic pay cuts so they could keep paying all the other workers as long as possible until everything was over, until there was literally just no more money to keep paying us. Okay, so like before you're rambling about, yeah, we're smashing capitalism. No, you're not. You're not. You're just making life more difficult. You're increasing suicide rates. You are destroying the country because you don't feel like getting your ass up and going to work. Like I keep saying this, guys, in a socialist society, in a communist society, whatever the hell you support, you're not going to be getting by making furry porn all damn day like I know you're trying to do. Like, because let's be real. It's usually those kinds. But no, that's not what they want to hear. It's not what they want to believe. So yeah.
No, I mean,
I'm kind of fed up.
while I understand, I mean, and I definitely empathize and sympathize with industries that are faltering by the wayside. That there's, I mean, there have been sparks of innovation. There have been sparks of innovation, and there have been people that have looked at this and gone, okay, you know, they've looked at it and gone, okay, this isn't going to stop. We need to do something different now in order to survive. Like people reopening drive-ins, the drive-in movies.
That's been just so few, though.
Yeah, and I totally, you know, and I 100% get that. And then you've got the big multiplexes that require new. You know, they're stuck in their ways. It's like, we have to get the new movies so that people want to come and watch. And it's like, well, you don't have to, because there have been stories of some of the more, some of the independent ones going, well, why don't we just show some classic movies? You know,
ours actually does that. Yeah, like so last year we showed a bunch of
exactly a bunch of. It's like, have you?
Yeah, we do that a lot actually. Last year we had like a whole Studio Ghibli fest that lasted for a couple of months, so they kept showing like My Neighbor Totoro and things like that for a while. We had last Halloween for a couple of nights. We did a bunch of Rob Zombie movies, you know, and they don't do as well, but we do still.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it.
It's not you're not trying to you're not trying to. It's not a way to stop the bleeding. It's all it is a tourniquet. But the way you market it and the way you kind of push it out there is, hey, you weren't around when Alien came out in 1979, were you? So you've only watched it on a TV. How about,
we also do like opera
how about
shows
you watch it,
too.
you know, as it was, you know, as the cinema, you know, because the filmmakers make movies to be first seen on the big screen. So it's like, well, how about we do a Harry Potter marathon or a Star Wars? I mean, I've been to Star Wars marathons, and it is freaking awesome watching Episode 4 on that big screen with the just, it's incredible.
For a while, one of our theaters did that with the Lord of the Rings too. They showed all the, I didn't get to attend that, but they showed all the Lord of the Rings ones. I mean, no, that was actually something we've been doing at our theater for a really long time. That's gosh, like sometimes they go to the classics. Or they do a lot of like old musicals. They do actual like opera shows and plays and stuff, Broadway things, sports events. Like they'll show, like, if it can be put on a screen, my theater will show it, basically. They don't always do as well, but it's something that they've been doing for a long time for sure. But it's just right now for our theater, it's just not as much of a market. I don't know, you know.
I did. There was one thing that I did hear that happened in in California that I thought was very, very innovative during the first lockdown was obviously, you know, bars and restaurants, and they all got shut down. Well, along with that, a lot of strip joints got shut down. So a very, smart cookie got together with a bunch of strippers. It's like, well, why don't we put together Uber Eats and strippers?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So strippers delivering your food, and it's like, yeah, people will pay for that. People, you know, you ain't going to get your tips in the establishment where you normally work because it's been shut down. But if you jump in your car in your stripper costume and deliver some food for people, you might get a tip. So yes, strippers that deliver you. Awesome idea. I mean, yeah.
See, I've got no use for that, so.
Hey, you don't know, there might have been some male strippers in there as well.
I'm not into male strippers. It's awkward to me. Okay.
Eye candy with your food.
I've never been to a strip joint. I've had no desire to ever go to a strip joint, including male one. It's like it's just skeevy to me, to be honest. I don't know. Like, it's just not my thing.
I've been to one.
Of course. But no, I don't know. It just never appealed to me. You know, like I joke a lot about, I don't know. I know people find this so inconsistent about me because like obviously I make the resin dicks. If I see like fabric, like sewing fabric that's like male pinup fabric, because they actually make that, I always buy it because it's hilarious to me. Okay, like it's literally just like fabric, and I can make a purse out of it with this dude like hanging over and his junk's like bulging out, and it's like, what the hell? I'm gonna put this on a purse. It's hilarious. But beyond that, I just have no interest at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, like your nether regions look weird, guys. It's not something I need to have like right in my face. It's like, no, I'm good.
And that is a very, very good point to end the show on today. Harley does not dig junk in her face. So
your dick pics will never work, guys. I'm sorry. I make prettier ones than what you can show me. Let's be real.
So we are going to wrap things up on that point. Literally. Point. We're going to wrap things up. So Harley, let everybody know about merch and stuff like that.
Alrighty, well, yeah, it's just same old, like, stuff in Etsy. I keep trying to put new stuff up, as I can. I'm thinking I'm probably going to, a lot of people don't know this. I actually have a second Etsy shop. Well, technically I have 3. And because I had 2 before I made this third one, and the third one's been taken off. So I'm probably going to list some stuff from the other ones and put them on this one too, which means there's going to be more things like purses and oven mitts and stuff like that, things I actually sew, plus the rabbit foot keychains
and the show logos they'll be on. They will be on very, very soon.
Yes, that too, the decals and stuff that I mentioned last week. So I mean, there'll be more stuff on there, I promise. Please, by all means, holidays are coming up. Feel free to ask for custom orders or whatever, because Lord knows I need those right now.
Yes, and I will add to that. Please, feel free to drop by Harley's Etsy, because we do have a little bit of show. We will have some show merch up there soon, and she does lots and lots of other wonderful, wonderful things. So, but obviously, apart from that, hit the like, hit the subscribe, come back, get us to 1,000 subscribers so that we can start doing this show live, because that would be a lot of fun.
And actually making money off of this too, because that would be nice.
Yep, and it would be very nice to make some money. It'd be very nice to make some pocket money off this as well. But yes, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and not only will we be back next week, but we will be back with a guest next week. Who's going to be our guest next week?
Yeah, it's a buddy of mine from Twitter, actually. So I'm going to be reaching out to him today and making sure all is good to go. So, yeah, we will have that going.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you guys next week. Toodles.
Bye.